There is this beautiful thing in life called intuition. We all have intuition, whether you use it or not. It's our God given messenger system where you receive intuitive guidance if you learn to tap into it. We all have a path of least resistance, meaning we naturally lean toward the one that we are most receptive to. With all the clairs, the key is to trust your intuition. So let's find out which one you are. Claircognizance is the ability to gain knowledge or insight intuitively without logic or reasoning. It's a deep inner knowing without external sources. These are intuitive hits in a form of knowingness where you just can't explain why you know something. You just do. This form of intuitive guidance is often mistaken for common sense, and while you might have common sense, it's important to recognize the difference. If you just know something without needing logic or reasoning or evidence, you are receiving intuitive insight through claircognizance. Don't dismiss it just because it doesn't appear logical. This is a more mentally oriented form of intuition, and it allows you to perceive future events as though they've already occurred. Clairaudience is the ability to hear voices or messages internally, and it's often mistaken for self-talk or mental chatter, but you need to learn to distinguish the difference. When spirit communicates through clairaudience, it may sometimes sound like an external voice, but more often it's an energetic transmission. This communication takes place in higher dimensions, and it feels very different from ordinary thoughts. Many people dismiss these experiences because they are unfamiliar with the concept of higher realms, and they assume that it was just a strange moment. But if you're hearing messages, you're not going crazy. You're receiving a divine gift, so pay attention to it. It's a sign that you're being guided. Clairsentience is the ability to sense and feel what others are experiencing, emotionally or physically, much like an empath. A clairsentient person must be very mindful of their environment because they are like a sponge. If the energy of a person, a place, or a crowd is low or heavy, they will absorb that energy very deeply. And without awareness, this can lead to emotional overwhelm or even physical illnesses. And this sensitivity is usually noticeable as a clairsentient person will instantly feel the energy of people, objects, the media. It's like a mirror effect, where whatever energy they encounter, whether uplifting or draining, it will directly influence their state of being. Clairvoyance is the ability to see with your mind's eye, receiving visual impressions such as images, lights, symbols, or even spirit. This is a visual form of intuition. Often these visions appear briefly, so it's really important to interpret them quickly and intuitively, because overanalyzing what you see can blur the clarity of the message, which can lead to confusion. So trust what comes through, even if it doesn't make logical sense at first. Clairolfaction is when you can smell something that isn't in your physical environment. Clairgustation is when you experience different flavors in your mouth without having eaten the food that you're tasting. I'm very strong in claircognizance, where I just know things, even when I can't explain it how. And quite frankly, it doesn't even matter how or why I know. The knowing is simply there, and I've learned to trust it. This deep inner knowing often comes from past lives, as the soul has a memory, just like the brain does, with the only exception is that when it comes to the soul level memory, you don't consciously remember it. That's why the knowledge can feel unexplainable. And this is exactly how I read the Akashic Records. I tune in, and the information flows through my claircognizance. I've also experienced clairaudience where I actually hear spirits speaking to me. What made it unique for me is that it happened on a physical level. Like I heard voices in my ears just as if I was talking to somebody. Normally this happens in higher dimensions, but for me, it also came through in the physical. The most important thing to remember, like I've mentioned before, is that you're not going crazy. This is real, so just trust it. With Clairsentience, I deeply feel energies, whether it's from people, places, or even the media, like movies or the music. As a child, I never liked watching TV, and I remember my mom always asked me, "Why don't you just go watch TV?" And I would always tell her, "No, I'd rather play." And growing up, no one around me understood why I refused to watch TV. But that's because I could feel how off the energy was. And even the so-called comedies often felt disturbing to me. Like I'm very sensitive to what I take in, so even with a comedy, I have to be very selective. Just because something is labeled a comedy doesn't mean that it truly carries that energy. When it comes to clairvoyance, I mostly receive visuals when I do a spirit guide reading. This makes it very easy for me to depict my visions using images so I can show it to the client. My other experience with clairvoyance is a really strange one. I see sounds. That's right. When there is a sudden loud noise, I experience a quick and intense flash of light in front of me, even though my eyes are closed. But when I have my eyes open, I've had instances when I noticed these tiny vibrating lights appearing in the corners of my vision. I've had interesting experiences with taste and smell. Well, actually, maybe taste not so much, but many times I smelled perfume out of the blue when no one was around. Because I love perfumes, it was just an indication of my guides signaling that there is something pleasant is going to happen. Another experience I had with smell wasn't as pleasant. One day I was meditating, and all of a sudden I started smelling cigarettes. Then this particular person came to my mind, and I texted him and asked him if he was smoking. And sure enough, he confirmed that he was. Now, I gave you all these examples so they can serve you to recognize some of these abilities within you. And hopefully you'll turn more attention to it, where you consciously realize that you are actually using your clairs, rather than it being just a strange experience that you dismiss. Now, some of these experiences aren't very significant. It's just there to refine your senses and to make you realize that they are present. This is not something that can be forced, okay? So just allow it to unfold naturally. But the best thing you can do is to make sure that you don't dismiss any of these experiences just because they don't make sense to you at the moment. In the upper dimensions, logic is irrelevant. So really, all you can do is just accept and allow.